The aircraft is equipped with an Automatic Flight Control System, AFCS. It provides autopilot, AP function with automatic pitch trim, rudder auto trim, yaw damper YD and turn coordination, flight director FD function and altitude alert. The main components are two core avionics cabinet, CAC-1, which controls the autopilot functions, and CAC-2, which monitors the autopilot's functions. Three control panels. One flight guidance and control panel, FGCP. Two index control panels, ICP. Three identical servo actuators on the three axes. Pitch Autopilot Actuator Unit, APAU-P on pitch axis. Roll Autopilot Actuator Unit, APAU-R on roll axis. Yaw Damper Actuator Unit, YDAU on yaw axis. The actuators are mounted in parallel with the flight control linkage and are equipped with a clutch. The Automatic Flight Control System exchanges data with two Air Data Computers, ADC, two Altitudes and Heading Reference Systems, AHRS, two Multifunction Computer, MFC, Multipurpose Computer, MPC. AFCS sends information, autopilot engage, disengage, to the recorder through the AFDAU, MPC. One power trim box. 5 display units. Navigation sensors, VOR, ILS, MKR, RA. The Flight Management System, FMS, integrated in display units 2 and 4. Discrete interface. This module presents the controls and symbology of the ATR 600 Automatic Flight Control System, AFCS. The AFCS interfaces with the crew through the Flight Guidance Control Panel, FGCP, the Index Control Panels, ICP, the Primary Flight Displays, PFD, and the Multifunction Display, MFD, where the Flight Management System, FMS, is located. Note: following a PFD failure, the MFD becomes a PFD with the automatic reversion function. The main AFCS flight mode controls and information are the Flight Mode Annunciator Strip, FMA, on PFDs, the FGCP Central Area. The FMA has 4 columns dedicated to annunciation of ice detection information. For further details, refer to ATA 30 chapter. Lateral modes, vertical modes, and AFCS status. Each column has 2 text lines dedicated to engaged and armed modes. A third text line is dedicated to AFCS trim demand or trim limit messages, approach capability indication, CAT 1, CAT 2, CAT 3, unexpected mode changes or abnormal navigation data, AFCS status messages. All the lateral mode push buttons are grouped on the left-hand side of the FGCP center area. Information on lateral modes is displayed in the dedicated FMA area. The bank angle selection is automatic. The bank angle limitation, high or low, is computed by comparing the current aircraft speed with VMHB, velocity minimum high bank, in normal or icing flight conditions. Low bank is selected if indicated airspeed, IAS, is less than VMHB, and low is displayed on the FMA. High bank is selected when IAS is greater than VMHB plus 5 knots. Nothing is displayed on the FMA. The bank angle limit is also shown on the attitude sphere by 2 green ticks. For high bank, the maximum angle value is 27 degrees. For low bank, the maximum angle value is 15 degrees. The standby push button of the FGCP is located below the lateral modes push buttons. Action on the standby push button switch on the FGCP clears all the armed or active upper modes and removes the FD bars if present. When autopilot is engaged, this action causes a reversion to basic mode, pitch and heading hold. In the lateral mode column, a green text tag indicates which lateral mode is set. The available autopilot basic modes are roll hold, when the bank angle is greater or equal to 6 degrees, wings level, when bank angle is less than 6 degrees until wings are leveled, then heading hold mode is automatically engaged. Heading hold, when bank angle is less than 3 degrees. Using the touch control steering, TCS, when basic modes are active, the above logics apply when TCS push button is released. As the bank angle limit value is at plus or minus 27 degrees in high bank, bank is brought back to 27 degrees if the TCS is released at a greater value. The autopilot is automatically disengaged if the bank angle exceeds 50 degrees. The available upper modes are heading cell, when heading is depressed, associated with the blue heading bug, VOR, when nav is depressed, if the source selector is set to VOR ILS 1 or 2 position, lock, when nav is depressed, if the source selector is set to VOR ILS 1 or 2 position, back course, when back course is depressed, if the source selector is set to VOR ILS 1 or 2 position, LNAV, when nav is depressed, if the source selector is set to FM1 or 2 position. A box is displayed for 7 seconds around a lateral mode in order to indicate a mode change accompanied by an oral triple click in case of mode reversion to a basic mode. The text tag is followed by a star during capture. Available capture modes are VOR star, lock star, back course star. On the second line, a blue text tag is displayed on the left to indicate which lateral mode is armed. Available modes are VOR, lock, back course, LNAV. All the vertical mode push buttons are located on the FGCP center area. Information on vertical modes is displayed in the dedicated FMA area. On the first line of the vertical modes column, a green text tag is displayed to indicate which vertical mode is engaged. The only available basic mode is pitch hold. The mode maintains the pitch attitude at engagement or brings it back to plus or minus 15 degrees pitch angle if exceeding this limit value. The available upper modes are IAS, vertical speed, alt, glide slope, and go around. A box is displayed for 7 seconds around a vertical mode in order to indicate a mode change, accompanied by an oral triple click in case of mode reversion to a basic mode. The text tag is followed by a star during capture. Available capture modes are alt star, glide slope star. If the alt vertical mode is armed, alt cell, and the alt capture becomes active, alt star, a modification of the selected altitude target through the FGCP will disengage alt capture. An oral triple click, accompanied by the message alt off in reverse video flashing for 7 seconds, indicates this disengagement. A red AFCS fail flag is displayed in case of AFCS loss due to either an AFCS1 and AFCS2 internal communication bus failure or a cockpit display system CDS communication failure with CAC. On the second line, a blue text tag is displayed to indicate which vertical mode is armed. Available modes are glide slope, alt cell glide slope. The autopilot, flight director and coupling push buttons are located on the right-hand side of the FGCP center area. Status of the autopilot, flight director and coupling side are displayed in the dedicated FMA area. Green arrows illuminate on the FGCP to indicate yaw damper and autopilot engagement, and for coupling side. The third column is divided into two lines. The first line is divided into three boxes. Box 1 displays AP autopilot and YD yaw damper green engagement labels. These labels reflect the selection on the FGCP. The autopilot label indicates that both yaw damper and autopilot are selected. Box 2 displays the FD label when the flight director is available. Box 3 displays coupling labels indicating coupling on captain side, first officer side, or dual coupling for Cat 2 ILS. The coupling labels reflect coupling selection on the FGCP. The second line is divided in two. The green Touch Control Steering TCS tag displayed on the right indicates that TCS is in use. The text tags displayed on the left reflect Speed Hold status. Speed Hold function engagement is controlled by the Speed Hold push button located below the yaw damper push button. This function is described in the Cat 3 capability module. Cat 3 capability is optional on the ATR 600. An FD push button is provided for each pilot to remove the FD bars from his PFD. These switches are located on both sides of the FGCP. Bar removal only affects the display of the FD bars. Flight Director and Autopilot Flight Director modes logic remain unchanged. The captain and the first officer can remove the FD bars from their respective PFD. A text tag is displayed to indicate abnormal trim situations exceeding trim threshold limits. The following labels are displayed in reverse video for 7 seconds and then displayed in steady amber until autopilot is disengaged. The pilots must manually disconnect the autopilot with hands firmly holding the control column. The two available labels are Autopilot Pitch Trim Fail, when the system senses the auto trim is inoperative, monitoring. Pitch Mistrim, if a pitch mistrim exists for more than 10 seconds. The following labels are displayed in reverse video for 7 seconds and then displayed in steady amber as long as the trim threshold is exceeded. The pilots must correct the trim settings. Retrim roll right wing down when a mistrim in roll axis exists, with the left wing tending to go down. Retrim roll left wing down when a mistrim in roll axis exists with the right wing tending to go down. Aileron mistrim when there is a significant mistrim in roll axis. Yaw autotrim fail in case of autotrim failure. Rudder mistrim when a significant mistrim exists on yaw axis. A text tag is displayed to indicate approach capability. Available labels are Cat 1, Cat 2, Cat 3 optional. The third area of the FMA's third line regroups labels indicating unexpected mode changes or problems with navigation parameters. In case of excessive deviation during approach, the label Excessive Deviation flashes in red reverse video for 7 seconds and is then displayed in steady red. On the attitude indicator, the glide slope and lock pointers and scales flash amber. The message Check Nav Source is displayed if the selected mode is incompatible with the navigation source or if the navigation source is lost. If the crew tries to engage a nav mode with an incorrect navigation source, the amber message Check Nav Source is displayed flashing for 7 seconds and disappears. If an armed or engaged mode is lost after a navigation source change, a frequency change, or a coupling change, the message Check Nav Source is displayed flashing in reverse video for 7 seconds and becomes steady amber until the crew engages another flight director mode or sets the AFCS to standby. The following label flashes and disappears only after the crew checks the corresponding Virtual Control Panel VCP icing box. Check Takeoff Speed is displayed in amber if VCP icing selection disagrees with the actual conditions. Steep Approach is displayed when Steep Approach is selected. AFCS test is displayed during the AFCS test maintenance operation. The following yellow labels are displayed flashing for 7 seconds and disappear. ATT invalid flashes when autopilot yaw damper disengagement is due to a roll or pitch discrepancy from attitude and heading reference unit AHRU. ADC invalid flashes when autopilot yaw damper disengagement is due to a calibrated airspeed or a true airspeed discrepancy from air data computer. Heading invalid flashes when heading discrepancy occurs from attitude and heading reference unit. Nav invalid flashes when flight director mode cannot be engaged because of nav data failure, VOR, lock, glide slope failure. Speed auto in-op flashes when auto is selected with the auto or manual cell push button and the speed target from both flight management systems is not valid. The manage speed mode is not available and the speed is automatically switched to manual cyan speed target bug. The speed target bug is automatically synchronized to the current value of aircraft speed. Alt-Off flashes in amber reverse video when vertical Alt-Star mode is disengaged due to setting a new target altitude. The fourth and last area of the FMA's third line regroups labels indicating autopilot yaw damper disengagement, approach category downgrade, and AFCS internal failures. The labels indicating autopilot and yaw damper disengagement are yaw damper disengagement, flashing reverse video for 7 seconds and then displayed in steady amber when the yaw damper is disengaged. Yaw damper is disengaged either by the flight crew pressing the yaw damper push button or applying 30 decanewtons on the rudder pedals, or by the monitoring system sensing a fault of the yaw damper function. A push on the quick disconnect buttons will cancel the message. If the autopilot is engaged, a disconnection of the yaw damper disengages the autopilot as well. See Autopilot Yaw Damper Disengage message. Autopilot disengage, flashing reverse video for 7 seconds and then displayed in steady red when only the autopilot is disengaged. The message is accompanied by the cavalry charge oral warning. Autopilot is disengaged either by the flight crew applying a force of 10 decanewtons on the control column or pressing the autopilot push button, the autopilot quick disconnect push button on the control wheel, the go around push button on the power levers, or the standby or normal pitch trim command switches. By the monitoring system, sensing a loss of the autopilot engagement conditions or a stall warning activation. A push on the quick disconnect buttons will cancel the message. If the autopilot is engaged, a disconnection of the yaw damper disengages the autopilot as well. See Autopilot Yaw Damper Disengage message. Autopilot Yaw Damper Disengage flashing reverse video for 7 seconds and then displayed in steady red when only the yaw damper and autopilot are disengaged. The message is accompanied by the cavalry charge oral warning. Autopilot yaw damper disengagement occurs when both the yaw damper and autopilot are engaged and the yaw damper disengages, consequently disengaging the autopilot. Additional labels inform the crew of any automatic flight control system AFCS malfunction. AFCS fail is displayed in case of internal failure. Check speed hold is displayed flashing reverse video for 7 seconds and then displayed in steady amber when speed hold is engaged and is unable to maintain the selected speed. AFCS failure messages are indicated by Flight Director Single Channel displayed flashing in reverse video for 7 seconds and then displayed in steady amber if Flight Director 1 Master Channel has failed. Autopilot is disengaged if previously engaged. Triple click and Autopilot disengage message and cavalry charge. When trying to re-engage the system after autopilot disengagement, autopilot invalid flashes in reverse video for 7 seconds and disappears when an AFCS internal failure occurs. Safety tests failed or discrepancy between AFCA1 and AFCA2 commands. Your damper is still available. Autopilot Your damper invalid flashes in reverse video for 7 seconds and disappears when an AFCS internal failure occurs. Autopilot and Your damper are not available. Autopilot inhibit is displayed in steady yellow for 7 seconds and then disappears when attempting to engage autopilot with a condition making this impossible, such as when operating pitch trim. Your damper inhibit is displayed in steady yellow for 7 seconds and then disappears when attempting to engage your damper with a condition making this impossible, such as when pressing rudder pedals. Speed hold inhibit is displayed in steady yellow for 7 seconds when speed hold button is pressed and conditions prevent speed hold engagement, applicable to Cat 3 capable aircraft. In case of category downgrade during automatic approach, the crew is advised by a triple click, and if flying a Cat 3 approach, a Cat 3 invalid AFCS detects of loss of approach capability message displayed in reverse video and the display of new lower Cat 2 capability. If flying a Cat 2 approach, a Cat 2 invalid message displayed in reverse video and the display of new lower Cat 1 degraded capability. On the ATR 600, the pitch wheel of the FGCP is used for vertical speed VS selection and pitch selection. IAS is adjusted with the speed target rotary switch on the ICP in manual mode or automatically computed by the FMS when auto mode is set. The selected altitude is displayed on the PFD and is set with the Alt Cell rotary knob located on the right part of the FGCP. The cyan target altitude bug and the digital readout on the altitude scale of the PFD show the selected altitude. The selected heading is displayed on the EHSI and is set with the heading knob located on the left part of the FGCP. The cyan heading bug and the digital readout on the EHSI show the selected heading. The push to sync function, push sync, of the heading button brings the selected heading bug to the current aircraft heading. The selected courses are displayed on the EHSI and are selected with the course rotary knobs located on the upper left and upper right FGCP corners. The pointers on the EHSI show the course selected by each pilot. Each crew member can select a separate course through the course knob on his side. The course selected by the captain is displayed on the captain PFD, and the course selected by the first officer is displayed on the first officer PFD. Each crew member, CM1 and CM2, can select a separate source. The navigation source is selected through the FGCP Nav Source rotary selectors. A label on the EHSI indicates which navigation source is selected with FGCP Nav Source selectors. The label is cyan when VOR or ILS is selected, VOR ILS 1 or VOR ILS 2. The label is magenta when FMS 1 or 2 is selected. When there is a source reversion, the label is yellow. To practice, let's try to carry out a complete flight from Toulouse, France, back to Toulouse. Pre-flight. Departure, Toulouse. Runway 32 left. Outside air temperature 15 degrees Celsius. The procedure recommended to take off is the following. The sources are set respectively to FMS1 and FMS2 on respectively crew member 1 and 2. The alt cell is targeted to 5,000 feet, for example, or according to the ATC clearance. The heading mode is selected. The IAS mode is selected and Speed Auto is activated on the ICP. The nav mode is selected. Check that the autopilot coupling side is on the pilot flying side. After startup and before taxiing, set and check nav aids and flight plan for departure. Then check flight instruments, including standby compass, during taxi towards the takeoff. The gust lock is released and flight controls are checked. Aircraft is lined up on runway. When the before takeoff checklist is completed, check that the lateral FD bar is centered on the PFD. If not, depress on the heading knob again. You are now ready for takeoff. Set power levers for takeoff. When VR is reached, the pilot flying rotates the aircraft to the required pitch attitude of 7 degrees and then follows FD bars at IAS of V2 plus 5 knots until acceleration altitude is reached. When the acceleration altitude is reached, the power management rotary selector is set to climb and the speed target will automatically be updated to a climb speed of 170 knots. The pilot decides to engage the autopilot. Arrows illuminate around AP push button and AP green is displayed instead of YD on the FMA. The aircraft is now flown by the AFCS computer. As the aircraft approaches the selected altitude, plus or minus 25 feet to target altitude, and vertical speed less than 300 feet per minute, Alt star is displayed in green. Then Alt green is displayed when aircraft is stabilized at the targeted altitude or flight level. The speed target computed by the FMS is the maximum cruise speed, max 240 knots. It is now time to prepare your descent. Select 3,000 feet, ATC assigned altitude, with the Alt cell knob. For descent, you may use VS mode. IAS mode is recommended for climb. Engage the VS mode by pressing the VS push button.
Move the thumb wheel to select a standard rate of descent of -1,500 feet per minute. The airspeed is maintained constant manually through a power lever reduction. Now prepare your approach to an ILS 32 left at LFBO. The speed target computed by the FMS is 240 knots until 2 nautical miles to the final approach fix. Select the heading mode by depressing the heading knob to change the lateral mode. It has to be done to avoid the AFCS to revert in basic heading hold mode with check nav source message on the FMA when you change the navigation source. Set the source selector on
1.04 ILS1
and providing the appropriate ILS frequency has been correctly tuned, adjust a 323 degrees course with the course selector 1.
Select a 270 heading for lock interception by turning the heading knob.
When cleared for approach, select the approach mode by depressing on the approach push button. When the localizer is captured, the heading cell mode is changed to lock star mode. And when the localizer is tracked, lock green is displayed. With flaps selected in 15 degrees, the FMS computed speed will be 140 knots.
As soon as lock is captured, glide slope can be captured. Once glide slope is captured, Alt is removed and glide slope star appears in green. Then glide slope is tracked and the star disappears.
Speed target computed by the FMS is 107 knots. It is now time to select the go-around altitude 4,000 feet.
When all required logic conditions are met, a CAT2 message is displayed in green. Both arrows around the coupling push button are illuminated. The required logic conditions to obtain dual coupling are: AFCS is valid. Both air data computers and altitude and heading reference system are valid. One radio altimeter is valid and radio altitude is less than 1,200 feet. Both ILS receivers are valid and tuned to the same frequency and same course. Approach modes are armed or activated. Your aircraft is now configured for landing, and power levers are adjusted to maintain approach speed. At decision altitude, the pilot has 2 options. Land, autopilot is disengaged. Minimum height 160 feet in Cat 1 by depressing twice the control wheel autopilot quick disconnect push button. Second action to cancel warning. Or go around. When at least one go around button is depressed, previous flight director modes except LNAV are cancelled and go around mode is engaged. A go-around speed is computed by the FMS. The presetted go-around mode is heading, heading hold laterally, and a safe pitch attitude, go-around vertically. When the mode is engaged, a second action on either GA push-button switch synchronizes the heading hold mode vertical bar on the heading followed at push-button switch release. You have now successfully performed a flight using the autopilot.
You will find in the Flight Crew Operating Manual more information about AFCS limitations. Refer to the Master Minimum Equipment List MMEL 22, pages 1 and 1 if needed.
Your answer is correct. 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 Your answer is correct.